At Great Wolf Lodge, you can take your whole family on an unforgettable adventure. It's a world of fun all under one roof. I happen to love water slides, and there are so many water slides and other amazing water attractions at Great Wolf Lodge.
And best of all, it's just a short drive away. So bring your pack together and wolf out. Learn more at greatwolf.com, greatwolf.com. Book now and strengthen your pack at Great Wolf Lodge. The weather is warming up and it is time for picnics.
At Whole Foods Market, you can save every day. Look for the yellow low price signs that help you save money without compromising the quality you expect from Whole Foods Market. Find them with their responsibly farmed Atlantic salmon, no antibiotics ever ground beef, and boneless, skinless chicken breasts, plus more throughout the store. Yellow really means savings at Whole Foods Market because their sale signs are also yellow. So basically, wherever you see yellow, you know you're saving money. Save on the best of spring with great everyday prices at Whole Foods Market.
Lemonada.
Hello, we're here for More Happier, a podcast where we talk about getting happier. Everyone has been so supportive and enthusiastic about my new dog extravaganza that we thought it would be fun to go back to where this entire dog conversation started.
Yes, and fittingly in our 10th anniversary, your dog, I'll call it your dog journey, started back in 2015 when you gave yourself a demerit for being indecisive about whether or not to get a dog.
Yeah.
And you ended up getting Barnaby.
Yeah. Let's take a listen.
Now it's time for demerits and gold stars.
So, Elizabeth, I'm up for demerit. And can your gold star for this week be that you're going to let me talk the whole time about my demerit and just like give me advice and solace?
Absolutely. Diving into your happiness demerit will give me great pleasure.
Okay,
Let's
good.
do it.
Okay, pleasure and a gold star. Okay, so this is what it is. My two daughters, Eliza and Eleanor, who are ages 16 and 10, desperately want a dog. And my husband's game for a dog. Like, he wouldn't come home and say, hey, honey, let's get a dog. But he's like, yeah, that's cool. Let's get a dog. Amazing. And my demerit is that I am just this killjoy who does not want a dog.
Oh, that's a big one. That's like, there's no middle ground there. You either get the dog or you don't get the dog.
Yeah, no. Yeah, the ideal middle ground would be like we post a picture of a dog on a refrigerator.
Right. Well, that's, for you. Now, I'm guessing, I'm thinking back to our own childhood. We had Paddywhack.
Our schnauzer.
Our dog, who I desperately wanted in third grade. And I wore mom and dad down and we got a dog.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing the main reason you don't want a dog is because you think the same thing will happen to you that happened to mom, which is she ended up doing 99.9% of all the Paddywhack, caregiving.
Yeah. No, and this is what I was saying to my family is I was like, if I was going to have a dog the way you're going to have a dog, I'd be totally fine with having a dog. If I could walk it every once in a while and like put some dog food in the dog dish and then like buy a bone from the pet store, that'd be great. But I'm like, I'm the one realistically where that, like, if the dog is throwing up in the middle of the day, I'm going to clean it up. If the dog has to go to the groomers, I'm going to take it. If the dog gets sick in the middle of the day and like is shaking with fear because the little dog hates going to the vet so much, that's going to be me. And my husband, Jamie, was like, well, I'll do it. And I'm like, yeah, but look, realistically, yes, you say you're going to do it. And if we get a dog, I'm going to hold you to that, like as if you signed in blood. But it's the middle of the day. You're in a suit in Midtown in a meeting with 10 people. I'm in yoga clothes in my office, writing a blog post. It's just going to be the sensible solution.
Yeah, it's going to be on you. And by the way, Eliza and Eleanor are going to be out of the house eventually.
Yeah, Eliza's going to be gone in 2 years. Eleanor, it all passes so in a flash. And the thing about me is like I hate errands. I hate trouble. I hate I hate calling. So I hate call to make an appointment and then make an appointment and then go. And it sort of seems like it takes up the whole day. And
well, Gretchen, let me ask you this. Do you like dogs?
if we had a dog, I would love our dog. I feel confident about that.
And I'm sure you would love the dogs of all of our listeners who listen to us while they're walking their dogs.
Yes, your dog, you podcast listeners, yes, love your dogs. Yes, we love your dogs.
All right, Gretchen. So I've heard why you don't want a dog, but I know you're like the research nut, and I know you've got research about the good things about having a pet.
Yes. No, so I see very clearly why I don't want a dog, but I also see that it would make my family really happy. And there's so much research showing that pets make people happier and also healthier. For instance, people who own dogs get more exercise and enjoy it more than people who belong to gyms. It's less stress. It helps people have less depression. It's all the joy of that unconditional love. Relationships, we were just talking a minute ago, how relationships make people happy, relationships with dogs. So many people say like, oh, you walk in the house and your dog is so happy to see you. And a friend of mine said, he goes, if you're thinking about whether to go to law school and you're not sure whether to go, don't go. But if you're thinking about whether to have a baby or not, have a baby. And I kind of feel the same thing about dogs. Like, people really love their dogs. And so I kind of intellectually think if we had a dog, I would be happy with it and I would love it and I would be glad that we did it. It's just that teetering right now on the edge of the decision.
You're filled with dread.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. That is, you put your finger on it. When I think about this, I'm filled with dread. I mean, you've got a pet. What do you think of it?
Yeah, well, we have one cat, Blackjack, who I inherited when Adam and I got together. He had Blackjack before we met. Now, I have to say, I am allergic to cats. So I don't know if I'm the right person to have this conversation with. I will say Blackjack is an incredibly sweet cat. And Jack, my son, yes, we have Blackjack and Jack in our house.
And your father's name is Jack.
And my dad's name, yeah. Absolutely loves Blackjack. And we've actually asked him, Jack, if he wants a dog. And his response is that he thinks Blackjack would not like us to get a dog. So I'm off the dog hook for the moment. But I do have a cat who makes my eyes itch. It's funny. It's one of the few times I've ever heard you go against one of your true rules, which is, what's fun for everybody else might not be fun for me.
Yeah.
You're fighting against that. And, I guess my question is, where are you hoping this whole conversation ends? Are you hoping it ends with getting a dog or not getting a dog?
Well, I don't know. So listeners, I don't know. Like, tell me, should we get a dog? Should we not get a dog? Write us, call us. What should we think about? What should we consider? It's a huge decision. I mean, Elizabeth, Mom said to me, because I was saying to her, they want to get a dog. She's like, well, we lived with Paddywhack longer than we lived with either you or Elizabeth.
Wow.
It's a big decision.
Wow.
And that's part of it, is like you feel like it's not a fleeting decision. It's a big decision. And so so anybody who has any advice or anything at all, please contact me immediately.
And Gretchen, I just want to go on the record as saying, controversial as this may be, I don't think you're a bad person for not wanting a dog. Dogs aren't for everyone. But I still hope you end up getting one.
Well, stay tuned because I think a decision's going to be forced pretty quickly here.
All right, Gretchen, this week's Try This at Home has to do with the discussion we had in episode 24 about whether or not you should get a dog.
Yes.
It's been a lot of discussion, so I want the big reveal.
Yeah.
What'd you decide?
Okay, so this is going to be a very long-winded answer.
Okay.
Now, I'm an upholder in the Four Tendencies framework, and I knew that I could say no. So I didn't feel like I had to say yes just because other people in my family wanted me to say yes. I felt that I could say no. And I knew that if I did say yes, it had to be because I was doing it for myself. And several listeners made this point, which is that if you do it for other people, you're going to feel resentful because you'll end up doing a lot of work and you'll just feel put upon. And that's not even fair to the dog. It's not fair to you. So be very cautious. And so I knew if I did it, I had to be doing it for my own reasons, do it for myself. And so why would I do it for myself? And as I explained in episode 24, like I was really caught between trying to make a decision. Because on the one hand, I know myself. I don't like errands. I don't like trouble. I'm not a dog person. I knew I would end up doing tons of work. Like, it makes it harder to travel and make plans, on and on and on. But I also knew, on the other side, that all the happiness research suggests that dogs do a lot to make people happier and healthier, and it's a whole important relationship, and relationships build happiness. I knew it would make everybody in my family happy, and that's important to me. And I also really did suspect, and I do suspect, that on the other side, I'll be glad that I got a dog. Like right now, I'm like, do I want a dog? But then I thought if I had a dog, I thought I would look back and be like, yes, I'm glad I had a dog. And many listeners said that. They were like, I wasn't sure, or I was scared of my dog, or whatever. But now I'm glad I had my dog. So I was caught. I had these pros and cons. They felt very balanced, and I didn't know what to do. And this is the try this at home, which I'm getting to slowly, which is, how do you make a decision, an important decision, when you feel like you're caught between the pros and the cons? You know, you've made your list on your legal pad and you can't figure out what to do. And so a friend of mine told me this thing that she thinks about, and it's so helpful. So this is the try this at home tip. If you're caught trying to make a decision, choose the bigger life. And the thing that I love about this, and why Choose the Bigger Life is so helpful, is that it's not the same for everyone. It reveals a lot about you to what you would decide was the bigger life. For some people, not getting a dog would be a bigger life because they want to travel, they want to have adventure, they want freedom, they want the money, they don't want to spend the money in that way. They have other important things that they need to do. And the bigger life would be, no, not to have the dog. But I realized that for me, the bigger life was to have the dog, because I can only have the atmosphere of growth from the inside. Like, for me, it would be about a relationship. It would be like learning this whole new area of the world. You know, I've been reading all these dog books, trying to think about it. It kind of opens up the world, and it's going to be so important to my family. It'll be some whole new adventure, some whole new thing that we'll share.
So you are getting a dog?
Yes.
Okay.
We're getting a dog.
We need a sound effect.
Bingo was his name.
Yeah. Yes. We're getting a dog. We're Choose the Bigger Life in my case. And in the case of my family, that was the bigger life for us. Yes, choose the bigger life. Of course, this is exactly the same logic that we are using when we are deciding to get Taffy, our new dog. Our family is so happy that we made this decision 10 years ago, and we're very excited to see how having another dog will change our lives, especially now in our open door era, our empty nest phase. So let's come back with your dog journey.
Gretchen, we always on this podcast talk about the importance of getting good sleep. And part of good sleep is a great pillow. There are side sleepers, back sleepers, even starfishes. I'm a side sleeper. And it really matters how your pillow fits with your head, whatever position you're in. Gretchen, I got a pillow from Coupe Sleep Goods that is so perfect for me. I went from using like 2 pillows together that were not quite right to using my one Coupe pillow, which is perfect. And it's for cool sleepers, so I don't wake up all sweaty in the middle of the night. I love it.
And also with Coupe Sleep Goods, you get a 100-night free trial. 86% of sleepers reported better sleep after switching their pillows to Coupe. There are more than 100,000 5-star reviews and over 1 million happy sleepers. Visit coopsleepgoods.com /happier to get 20% off your first order. That's COOP sleepgoods.com /happier.
Do you want to set your child up for success? Is your child asking questions on their homework you don't feel equipped to answer? IXL Learning is an online learning program for kids. It covers math, language arts, science, and social studies. IXL is designed to help them really understand and master topics in a fun way with positive feedback. Gretch, one of my favorite kids, Violet, uses IXL for middle school math, and let me tell you, her mom is very very happy that she does.
Well, the program will improve your kids' grades. Backed by research, kids using IXL are scoring higher on tests. It will work for any of your kids. 1 in 4 students in the U.S. are learning with IXL. IXL is used in 96 of the top 100 school districts in the U.S. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And Happier with Gretchen Rubin listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/happier. Visit IXL.com/happier to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price.
Gretch, it's hard to imagine a time when you didn't have a dog, let alone when I didn't have my 2 corgis.
Yes. But Elizabeth, you surprised all of us by becoming a dog person. Nobody saw that coming. I think you least of all, but you did.
I know. And now I'm a proud member of Corgi Nation, and I love all dogs.
Elizabeth has a lot of news. And Elizabeth, our try this at home tip is to consider getting a dog.
Yes.
So tell us more.
Yes. Okay. So this obviously would not work for everyone, but I have to suggest it as a try this at home because it has worked so well for me, Gretch.
Aww.
We have our new puppy, Nacho.
Yes.
He is a corgi. He's about 15 weeks now.
Wow.
And I'm not surprised by how happy Jack and Adam are with the addition of Nacho to the family.
They really have wanted a dog for a while.
Yes. And they specifically were desperate to have a corgi.
And why is that? Why the corgi?
They just love the way corgis look. Jack loves the way their faces look like fox faces.
Oh, they are so cute.
They had their hearts set on getting a corgi. I was very much on the fence about getting a dog, much like you, Gretchen, before getting Barnaby.
Oh, yeah.
But I have been so surprised by how happy Nacho makes me. And I really now am one of those people who wants everyone to get a dog.
And specifically, what is it about having a dog that makes you happier, would you say? And your whole family?
Yes. Well, one, I must say, and I'm sure everyone feels this way about their dog, he is such a sweetheart. He's so cute and fun. But, I found that it really gives us something to all rally around. Like I had a friend who had 3 older children, and then he had a 4th, my friend Gage, much later.
Yes.
And he would say everybody can agree that we love Nico. Everybody can agree that we just dote on Nico. And that's how I feel about Nacho. We all agree that Nacho is adorable. We all agree that we should go outside and play with Nacho. And so it just gives us something as a family to do together that is just fun and is a great common interest.
Yeah. Well, I find that when Eliza, now she's got her own apartment and when she was in college and stuff, I could just send her a picture of Barnaby and that would always make her happy. Or just all of us are always sending funny pictures of Barnaby. And it's something that everybody's interested in.
Yes.
And I love cute photos of Nacho.
Yes.
Eliza and Eleanor are tell Elizabeth she needs to send more videos of Nacho.
Yes.
Everybody loves it.
Yes. We can send cute photos to each other and videos. Adam had a Halloween costume for Nacho. We're always thinking of what ball would Nacho like.
Yes.
So it's just fun. And it's, I don't know, it's just something active for us to do together.
Yes. Well, one of the things that the research shows about happiness is that for happiness, we need to be able to get support, but also give support. And I think one of the things about a dog is it gives you a being to care for and love and be responsible for. And that fosters love. So it's a relationship, but it's also a relationship where you really are supporting Nacho or Barnaby or whoever. And that itself is a source of happiness.
Yes, especially as Jack gets older. It's nice to have a little being who needs me. Now, I will say, Gretchen, and I also recommend this to anyone who's getting a dog that sheds a lot like we did. I said, okay, if we're getting a dog that sheds a lot, I am getting a Dyson pet vac because...
You're just going to splurge and deal with it.
I have wanted one for 8 years, even before we had a dog. And so I just said, okay, this is my splurge for getting the dog.
Right.
And the other funny thing, Gretchen, we've got our pet vac, and then I have have to apologize to everyone out there who's been talking to me about their dogs for the last 25 years because I've never been interested in their dog conversation. My eyes would just glaze over. And now I am one of those people who's interested in talking about dogs.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating now.
Yeah. I remember when we were getting Barnaby, I read like all these dog memoirs. Like there's all these really, really great dog memoirs. And it was like this whole part of the library like activated for me, which I had never paid any attention to before, that I would never have any interest in. And then I'm like, pack of two? Oh, it's a book I have to read.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
I'm like, and which teething rings do you use? And what method? And do you close the crate door? Do you not close the crate door? And I'm interested in no detail too small.
Well, it's funny because I know you and Sarah, your writing partner, Sarah, and in Happier in Hollywood, this is like a running theme. And you have that segment called Liz versus Sarah, where you talk about things where you disagree. And this has always been one of these like Liz versus Sarah, where you were absolutely like, no way, no how. I don't want a guinea pig. I do not, like, I don't understand why you're even considering getting a giant Welsh rabbit.
Yeah.
Because she's such a dog and animal person.
Yes.
But then in episode 234, I heard that you just said to Sarah, you win.
Yes, I gave it up to her. I said, you know what? After all these years, I'm giving you this one. You're right about a pet making you happier.
But you know what? Speaking of Sarah and her pets, it was hilarious because I was asking about Nacho and whether he like jumped up on the furniture. Because by the way, Barnaby is all over our furniture. We don't even try to keep him off the furniture. And you said, well, Nacho can't jump up, and I don't know that he'll ever be able to jump up. And I was flashing back to the thing that I laugh at so hard from Happier in Hollywood when you said of the rabbit, does it hop? Can it hop?
I have dog gates throughout my house. So keep the rabbit in a room that doesn't have a bunch of cords around.
So it won't be in a cage. It'll just be hop. Does it even hop? Can it hop? Does it shuffle?
I assume it hops. No, it'll have an indoor cage and an outdoor cage.
Okay.
The Welsh giant
They're
rabbit.
very large rabbits. They do not
large
look as if they could hop.
Yeah, well, and corgis are not built for scaling high furniture, I would say.
They are
Yes.
not.
Yeah.
I will say they're the smallest of the herding dogs, which is interesting because he likes to herd the soccer ball.
Oh.
See, this is exactly the kind of conversation I would have had no interest in a few weeks ago, and now I'm sharing. So I have to keep an eye on myself so I don't bore anybody with my dog talk.
You got to find your fellow pet-fascinated people.
Yes.
Elizabeth, I know there's something you've been meaning to tell me.
Yes. Okay, Gretchen, this is, for me, huge. It may not sound huge to listeners, but for me, it is so big. So Adam and I went to pick up Jack at camp, which is about 5 hours north of where we are. So we stay over. So we drove up on a Friday, picked him up Saturday morning. And what I've been meaning to tell you is that we took Daisy and Nacho, our two corgis, with us.
Wow, that is bold. And had they ever been on a car trip before?
No. I mean, I think the longest they'd been in a car was maybe like 45 minutes.
Okay.
So Adam brought this up because I'm like, we have to figure out what we're doing with the dogs. And he goes, actually, I thought we could take them with us. And I just said, no. I said, absolutely not. That will not go well. They'll be barking. We have a ton of stuff for Jack, like his trunk and his bag, and we don't know if they can travel, and on and on. And I just said, we can't do it. I mean, and I was so adamant that Adam was like, okay, I guess we're not bringing them. That was at night. I went to sleep and I woke up in the morning, and true story, I was like, choose the bigger life. Your phrase that you say, which I think you have like on a pouch that you can buy, which I have.
Yes, I'll post a link.
Yes, I was like, choose the bigger life. And I was like, just do it. It may not seem like a big deal, but I was just like, I've got to do this. It's an adventure. Think of it as an adventure and doing something new. It's one night. So it really is the perfect experiment because it's only one night. So I told Adam, yes, I will do it. He was thrilled. Now, of course, with such a to-do, it's like having an infant. It requires so much extra stuff.
Yeah. Well, and you were staying there overnight. So it was fine to have dogs where you were staying? How'd that work?
So I had to book a place where we could take dogs. Of course, there was a charge for that. But anyway, yeah, we booked a place near Jack's camp, the Shaver Lake Hotel. It had a little cabin. And we had to get all this stuff, like something for the back seat. We got extra toys and chews and all this stuff just in case we needed it. Packed up their food, all extra water, so much stuff.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, they did great. And it was so much more fun to have them. So they did great. They didn't they didn't throw up in the car or anything. And we got to this hotel, which is like, it's a place where people come to like fish. So, it's cabins and that kind of environment. Yep. And the dogs did not bark in the cabin at all. And it was like a miracle.
That is, because they bark. They do bark.
They bark, as we sometimes hear on this podcast. They bark. But they didn't bark. They were just so in love with being somewhere new. And then what was great is we didn't tell Jack in our emails to him that we were bringing the dogs. So that was a great surprise for him. And then, and I'm sorry to be one of these people talking about my dogs, but the next day we had them out at a cafe, after we picked up Jack and had breakfast, and they didn't bark at anybody. So it was just this great thing. And again, and I know I keep saying this, I am just so not the type of person who I ever thought would have dogs, much less travel with dogs. And it's like this unfolding thing of discovering like my new identity and new things that I like. And I've said this, it makes me feel so much more like hopeful and more happy about life in general. And a reminder to choose the bigger life. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it does.
Listen, it's interesting how this idea of choosing the bigger life comes back over and over again. It's one of the secrets of adulthood. I included that in my Secrets of Adulthood book. And just we talk about it all the time.
Yes, it is such a huge idea. And it helps like in deciding to travel with the dogs. So much of me will say, no, don't. But then if you think, well, choose the bigger life, sometimes having something more complicated or harder actually makes it bigger and better.
Absolutely. And we will be back with one of my very favorite episodes of A Little Happier, which was a story that I told that included a discussion of our dog, Barnaby.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. It is so important that we all have a support system. Gretch, you're a huge support for me, as are mom and dad. We've got a great supportive family. Nonetheless, there are times in my life when I have really turned to a therapist to give me even more advice and support. Therapy can be a source of support for any area in your life. Sometimes you just want to shift the focus from doing it all to knowing we're better when we ask for help.
BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. Access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. Easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Gretchen Rubin to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Gretchen Rubin. Welcome back to More Happier. It is so much fun to revisit our dog journeys. And this whole subject of getting a dog reminds me of one of my very favorite episodes of A Little Happier that I wrote about the arrival of our dog, Barnaby.
So, as I discussed on the Happier podcast, I went through a long debate with my family about whether we should get a dog. And of course, we did get a dog. We got our dog, Barnaby, and we just had the second anniversary of getting Barnaby. It's hard to remember what life was like without him. It seems like he's been with us forever. And this thought, this observation reminded me of the final paragraph of a beautiful children's book that I love called The Animal Family. This is a 1965 children's book by the poet and critic Randall Jarrell, and it has breathtaking illustrations by Maurice Sendak. It is a beautiful, timeless, quiet book. If you or your child has jangled nerves, read this book. I simply cannot resist reading the first few lines to give you a sense of the book. And the book opens, "Once upon a time, long, long ago, where the forest runs down to the ocean, a hunter lived all alone in a house made of logs he had chopped for himself and shingles he had split for himself. The house had one room, and at the end closest to the ocean, there was a fireplace of pink and gray and green boulders. The hunter had carried them home in his arms from the cliff where the forest ended." So that gives you an idea of the book. So the hunter lives all alone, and then one night he hears singing, and he sees that it's a mermaid singing, and he makes friends with the mermaid, and eventually the mermaid comes to live with him in his house made of logs. And the logistics of this are a little bit murky, but whatever. The mermaid comes to live with the hunter, and then some years pass, and then they find a bear cub, and they bring the bear to live with them, and some years pass, and they have all these little adventures with the bear, and then they find a baby lynx, and the baby lynx comes to live with the family, and some years pass, and they have a lot of little adventures with the bear and the lynx, and then there's a terrible storm and a shipwreck, and a lifeboat floats up to the beach, and they rescue a little baby boy. And so the boy comes to live with the family, and years pass, and they have little adventures with the boy. And this is the final passage from The Animal Family. And the family is playing a game about the story about how the boy came to live with the family. The hunter said, "The very first day your mother and I came to the house, there you were in the corner, fast asleep." "That's right, fast asleep with him," said the boy, giving the bear a big push. "Oh, no," said the mermaid. "That was years before the bear came. We've had you always." And this is how we feel about Barnaby. And here's the thing about love. It's easy to see how it stretches into the future. But the funny thing, it also changes the past. We've had Barnaby always.
Well, we hope you're feeling happier after this episode. Thanks for being on our dog journey now and over the years. Remember, the best time to start a happiness project is 20 years ago. The second best time is now.
From the Onward Project.
Life sure doesn't come with a roadmap, but what if you had a guide? I'm Tamsin, and on The Tamsin Show, I'm here to help you navigate midlife, menopause, career shifts, and everything in between. Like a best friend or a big sister who's been there, with expert guests, real conversations, and actionable advice. This is your go-to podcast for living better, loving stronger, and taking charge of your well-being. Listen to The Tamsin Show wherever you get your podcasts, because it's time to own it.